All right, we are in week 2, or part 2 of this 3-part series on the issue of trust. And the thing about trust is that it is really, among human beings, it's very much a kind of a two-way thing, isn't it? Very often, in a human relationship, there's a problem. Someone has failed us, or something has failed us. Let's take the thing first. It might be your car. Are you going to trust your car if it breaks down, doesn't start every other day? If tomorrow morning, car doesn't start. Okay, Tuesday, it starts. Wednesday, doesn't start. Thursday, doesn't start. Friday, decides to start. You're going to wake up an hour before you have to go anywhere because you don't know what you're walking into, correct? You don't know if that thing's going to kick, right? You don't know if it's going to make it to work. You're not going to trust it. And in that situation, you got to fix what's wrong with the car. But the thing is, you could take it to the mechanic, they can hook it up to the thing, to the diagnostic, and they can figure out what it is, and they can fix it. But if that thing has betrayed you for like a month or two, you're still going to be like, right? You're going to put the key in the ignition, and you're going to be like, oh yeah, it started. You're still not going to trust it. So it's not always the car. Sometimes it's going to be me. My heart has gotten betrayed. I have had to get a ride to work for a month or something like that, or been late to work. Maybe I lost my job because the stupid car wouldn't start. And it might be fixed, but I still might not trust it the way that I used to. Happens all the time in relationships, right? Our kids, I've heard stories of teenagers, and I know these aren't true, but teenagers that would lie to their parents. I'm going to my friend's house. They actually go to a wild party. They get caught, which always happens. And then there's a trust issue. How can I trust you? What if an employer finds that one of his employees, and this is a trusted guy who's more than just someone who works for him, maybe it's a friend who's been there since the company started, finds out they've been stealing for years. Trust has been broken. In a marriage, maybe the husband's got a gambling problem. Maybe he's got some kind of a substance abuse problem. Maybe he's cheating, or maybe she's cheating. Maybe there's an issue there. Someone has broken trust. And I've seen it happen a million times, so that other person will get help. They'll get off the addiction. They'll beat it. God will go in there and change their heart. But the other person is still burned. They're still not going to trust them like they would. Right? They might put a GPS tracking thing on them to make sure that they're going where they're supposed to be, even though they've turned the corner and they're trustworthy again. See, but what we're going to see in the text today that I want to look at, when it comes between us and God, it's my problem. It's not his. Right? It's your issue, not his. It truly is. It's not like, when a guy breaks up a girl and he goes, really, it's not you, it's me. See, because the guy doesn't really believe that. And sometimes we play that with God. He gives us no reason ever for us to not be able to trust him. He has given me no evidence in my life where I would have to say, well, gee, I really can't trust God in this, even though I do. And I blame him, and I blame his inadequacy. And here's the problem, is because he doesn't show up when I think he should show up, and he doesn't do what I think he should do the way I want him to do it. I mean, how crazy did that just sound? Because I'm talking about God. I'm not talking about my car. I can say that about my car. It should start when I want it to start. It was built to work. It was built to take me to where I need to go, right? So I can have that kind of expectation, but should I have that kind of expectation with God? God's not a robot. God's not something, he's not like a vending machine. I put in the coin and I get what I want. But see, what's happened in this trust series, I've realized that I have very much had that idea of God as my personal vending machine. I put in my coin, I should get my candy. I did my part. Lord, I did my part. You better do yours. This trust thing, it's about we're the broken ones. We're the messed up ones. We're the ones who need to trust him. And the crazy thing, and it's also the amazing thing, is that he has given us every reason to trust him. Look at Matthew 14. Grab a Bible. There's ones around you. Because I want us to see something. We got to set up this account of Jesus walking on the water. Because the guys in the boat, the disciples, have had every reason to trust Jesus, every reason to believe that he's God, the Lord of the universe. They have seen him raise a dead girl. He brought a dead girl back to life. They were there. They saw it. They saw him give sight to someone who was blind. Those are, in case you don't know, in case you don't have like a vast biblical knowledge, what those two things, just those two things add up to is that Jesus is God. All-powerful maker of the universe. Only the all-powerful maker of the universe can raise the dead and give sight to the blind. It doesn't happen. Even people today, it just doesn't happen. When you've been dead for days, no one's taking you back, and no one's bringing you back. Contrary to what the movies might say, or even modern technology might say, if you've been dead for a week, you're not coming back. But Jesus can come in and do that. And he did. In fact, right before he walks out on water to them, on the very day before, he had fed 5,000 people. It's probably more, because in the text, Matthew says they didn't count the women and the children in that number. So it's probably more like 10,000, maybe 15,000 people with, as the text says, 5 loaves, 2 fish. 5 loaves, and that's all they had. The people were hungry. It was late. Jesus says, bring that stuff to me. Bring me the 5 loaves. Bring me the 2 fish. He thanks God for, he praises God for them. He has them distribute, and everybody, it says, ate. They were satisfied. It wasn't like they had like a little piece and like, oh, this will tide me over till later. They were like at Long John Silver's. You know what I mean? There were hush puppies. There was fish. It was awesome. And they all ate, and they were like, man, that was good. And they even had some left over. It says in the text that they had 12 baskets left of the leftovers. So when you have more leftovers than you had to begin with, plus you fed like 20,000, that's a lot of people. That's a lot of food. To me, if I'm there, I'm going, this is God. This wasn't about feeding the people. Although he had compassion and wanted to do that for them. But I think the bigger issue is he wanted them to know that no matter what happens, even in a small thing, like you're hungry, Jesus is going to come through. And he's going to do something that shows that he's God. And then it says in the text, in 22, this is where we're going to hang out most of the time today. It says, immediately. Now we might wonder, like, why did he immediately make them get into the boat? Why is he like, all right, go. I mean, there's an urgency here. Now, if you go to John 6, which is John's account of the feeding of the 5,000, and then it goes right to Jesus walking on the water, it says this, in verse 15 of John 6, it says, Jesus, knowing they intended to come and make him king by force, withdrew again to a mountain by himself. Some scholars really think that these people went, all right, cool, we got a guy that can feed us. Make him king. King. So they saw the miracle and they were like, king. What they should have seen was God, almighty creator of the universe. He's come to seek and to save the lost. But they're like, no, we got a guy that can give us whatever we need whenever we need it. Vending machine. Convenience store. He's right here. An endless supply. He's an ATM. That's awesome. Let's not let this guy go away. So I think Jesus might have been like, oh, my disciples are going to get roped into this because we know these guys, right? So they're going to probably go, yeah, it sounds pretty good. So I think he's like, go, you guys go. I want you away from this toxic situation. In fact, Jesus removes himself from it as well. Okay, so that's, I think, what happens. I think he says, right, you guys go on ahead. Please, immediately go. And he goes on the mountaintop to pray because that's not his mission to become a king, an earthly king. He's here to seek and save. He's here to suffer and die. He's here to give himself. Okay, so they're out on the boat. It's getting late. There's wind and there's waves. It says that they were buffeted by the wind, and the wind was against them. Now, here's the thing. I've often read this and go, oh, they were afraid of the storm. They weren't. Not in this text. There's another one where they're afraid of the storm. But in this case, they're fishermen. They've been around this. They've had big, the boats going up and down, and they knew what they were doing, and they were making progress. It was tough going. They fought for every inch every little bit of distance that they gained. But it was about the fourth watch of the night, and we're talking like maybe like 2, 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning. This is late. Jesus went out to them walking on the lake. Did you see what happened? Middle of the night, Jesus is walking on the lake out to them. Now, if you're not going, what? Then you're not seeing what's in here. Paul David Tripp, who's a great preacher, he's also a great author. I've read a lot of his stuff. And I saw a sermon a couple weeks ago when he preached on Mark's account of this. He says, we become just too comfortable with the Bible. We read them like, oh yeah, because we make jokes about walking. That guy walks on water, and we use it to describe somebody that can do something pretty good, like he can really make a business deal, or he saved the steel mill. He can walk on water. Okay. Saving a steel mill, Lee Iacocca saving, the motor Ford, I guess it was, or whatever, Chevy, whatever motor company in Detroit. Somebody doing something that's pretty awesome for a human being is not like Jesus walking on water, just so you know. Okay? Those things were possible, right? Because they happened. They were difficult, they were challenging, but they were not godlike. This is God-like. No one else can pull this off. Nobody can go. Now remember, they were a considerable distance from the shore. It wasn't like, it was like a low tide and he's like, we skip in on the water and it's like a little mud puddle or something like that. They are like, they're a massive distance. And he walks out to them. He doesn't have a jet ski, right? He doesn't have some kind of raft or some kind of boat. He's walking on the water. He's defying all the laws of physics and gravity and science and everything else. He's walking on the water out to them. And Tripp in his sermon was like, boy, why doesn't that rattle us? Why do we miss the point of that and go right on to Peter trying to walk on water to him? When the Tripp says that the importance of the text is in those words, walking on the water out to them. He does what no one else can do, just like raising the dead. It's in the same category as giving sight to someone born blind. This leaves you with no other conclusion than it's God coming out onto that water. But what happens? Notice this. They're not afraid of the wind and the waves. They're afraid of Jesus. Because they have no way to kind of put this together. I don't know that I would either. And in some ways this gives me comfort, but in a lot of ways this just kind of underlines my inability to trust sometimes, because I'm just like these guys. I'd be terrified too. Middle of the night, it's dark, it's scary, there's wind and waves, everything, and then Jesus is walking out in the water. We left him back on the shore. He went up on the mountain to pray, and here he is. Whoa, I'd be like, uh-oh, what does this mean? And it says they were terrified. It's a ghost. That's their response. It's a ghost. Like, really, guys? Could you do better? I don't think I could. I would have been like, it's a ghost. Notice they've had to find a human response, a human explanation for this. And so they cry out in fear, again, a very human response, but a very sinful one. I think based on what they've seen, based on what they've experienced. This is unbelief. Because if Jesus can raise the dead, if he can give sight to the blind, and if he can feed like 20,000 people with little or nothing, well, I think he could probably walk on water, don't you? But they're like, yeah, I get it, yeah, I get it, yeah, I get it, but now, uh-oh, what is this? It's a ghost. Here's the thing that I take comfort in. It's not that I'm like them. That terrifies me, actually, that I'm like these guys. That I can see God work and work and work in my life and still be like, oh, boy, is it you? God, are you really here? No, what I take comfort in, and I think what we all need to take comfort in, is verse 27, where Jesus immediately says to them, he answers all three of their things. Remember? They were terrified. They said it's a ghost, and they cried out in fear. Jesus answers all three of those. He says, take courage. You're terrified? Take courage. "It is I." They think it's a ghost. He goes, "No, it's me. It's me. It's God. It's the Lord, the one who has made heaven and earth, the one who puts everything together, the one who holds you in his hand. It's me. It's I." He echoes the words that God spoke to Moses out of that burning bush. Remember, Moses is supposed to go to Pharaoh, and God's like, Moses is like, "Well, they're not going to listen to me. Who should I say sent me?" Right? What name can I drop to Pharaoh? And he goes, "Tell him I am. I am." Jesus is saying, the one walking out, it's I am. It's that same God. The God of Moses, the God of Jacob, the God of Abraham. It's me. Don't be afraid, because they were crying out in fear. To my fear, to my doubt, to my shame, he says, "It's me." He says, "Take courage. It is I. Do not be afraid." You don't have to be afraid. It's me. Take courage. Take courage. Now, what does Peter do? You would think that he would be like, "Yeah, you're the one who raised the dead. You're the one who did all these things. It must be you, God. It must be you, Jesus." They saw him. Think about this. Peter says, "Lord, if it's you." I'm like, think about it. What do you mean, is it you, if it's you? He just said, "It's me." And here we are. We're right back to the Garden of Eden, aren't we? If you have any doubt that Peter is a sinner like you and me, this is it right here. This is it. Because he's believing the same lie that the devil put into Adam and Eve's head. Remember, God said, "Don't eat from the tree," and he's like, "Really?" God said we would die. Did he really? Is he really can you really take him at his word? Are you really going to listen to him? Right? So Adam and Eve, instead of listening to God, their father, who had given them everything, listened to the devil, and everything went, destroyed, obliterated, gone. Our relationship with him just totally blown up. Peter's doing the same thing. He's doing the same thing. Can't we take God at his word? Isn't it enough for him to say, "Take courage, it's me. Don't be afraid"? And the amazing thing is Jesus doesn't go, he could have just walked away, couldn't he? He could have said, "Oh, you guys are a lost cause. What do I have to do? What do I have to say?" He's willing to say, "All right, I'll play along. Come on out, Peter. Jump out of the boat. Come out to me." So he does. And he actually gets right to where Jesus is. Now, we don't know how far away from the boat Jesus was. I don't think that matters. What matters is that he gets out on the boat, and Peter is able, because of Jesus' power, he's able to walk on water to him. Now, wouldn't that be proof? Wouldn't that be proof? Wouldn't that make you not afraid? Whoa, I'm on water. There's like, I don't know how deep that thing was, but it was probably pretty deep. A sizable boat was able to sail in that body of water. So he's up pretty high in the water, and he's walking. He's walking out to Jesus because Jesus enables him to do it. This isn't Peter. Peter didn't somehow become buoyant. He didn't somehow have some kind of water walking shoes that he invented, that he went on. No, Jesus was making it happen. But then when he sees the wind, and he begins to be afraid, and he sinks, begins to drown. He says, "Lord, save me." And we have our third immediately. Jesus immediately doesn't think it through, doesn't let him squirm, doesn't let him, get a whole bunch of water inside of him and start to pass out or die. No, he immediately grabs him and pulls him out. Pulls him out. And that means that Peter got all the way to where Jesus was, because all Jesus had to do was reach out his hand. He's right there. You're right there. Both of you. Think of that moment. Both of you guys are on the water. And he looks around. And he doubts, and he's afraid, and he falls, and he almost drowns, and Jesus immediately responds. But Jesus has some words for him. He says, "You have little faith. Why did you doubt?" I don't think this is anger. I think this is disappointment in Jesus. I think he's going, "Why didn't you? I want you to doubt. I don't want you to doubt. I want you to believe." And so they climb into the boat. The wind dies down. Those who are in the boat, they worshiped him. Truly, you're the Son of God. That's the issue. For them to know that he's the Son of God and they can trust him. But how many times do we not trust him? This whole experience, as I said last time, has really inspired me to do this trust series. All the things, there's so many ifs, there's so many things about moving to another place. This past week we went out looking for houses, and the problem was more with me. It wasn't with my realtor, who's awesome out there, and the mortgage person, the realtor person here. But it's just, you know what? I want the mortgage done now, right? I want to check for the full amount of the house out there. I want my house taken care of here, neat, buttoned up, so we can just go. I can sit back and sip, have a nice glass of soda and just chill and watch the Eagles play and not have to worry about anything. See, that's what I want, and I want it now. See, I forget all that God has done. Now, God has blessed me with people who, they call me on stuff, okay? I got a friend, he'll come into the office and he'll call me on stuff. Because he knows what God has done in the past for me. Now, I don't want to talk about those things. I want to talk about what's going on right now. Because I don't care all the other things that God has done, all the other times that God has shown up. I'm worried about the right now problem. And this person will ask me, they'll say, so let me get this straight. So now is the time that God's going to take you out there and then drop you. Like, that's what he's going to do. So that everyone will know that God is a failure, that everyone will know that God cannot be trusted. Yeah, that's God's plan. Sure. Wake up. Right? It's almost like he wants to shake me. Come on, stop. Because my wife and I, we've moved a lot. How many moves is it now? Like eight or nine? Because we got married right when I was in school still. So we were like, because of school having to move. And there were so many times where we found ourselves without a place to live. And I don't know if you've ever had that happen, but it's scary. Right? I know people that have never moved from where they're at, but it's scary when you don't have that other place. And we've done it a number of times where it's like, okay, we need to be here. We don't really have a place, but we're going to go. And I can say that now and laugh. But let me just tell you that each and every time we were like the disciples on the boat, beyond terrified, thinking, God, what have you done? What have you done? Feeling like the people of Israel. You took us out of Egypt. You brought us into the desert to kill us. Right? You brought me out of St. Louis and you've taken me to California to kill me. Because our first call out of seminary, I have been racking up debt for 8 years, right? I haven't started my job. My wife doesn't have a job, okay? And so we're walking into a new place. We've gone from St. Louis to Central Valley, California, and we have nowhere to live. It just dawned on me the other day how goofy that is. And I can't remember why we didn't have a plan. Right, we'll have to talk about that later, my wife and I. Because it dawned on me just the other day. I'm like, wait a second, I don't remember there was a plan. It was like, well, God will provide. Right? It was like Abraham walking up with Isaac up to the thing for the sacrifice. Well, God will provide the ram, right? And I'm like, well, God will provide the place. And all we had was the people of God, and that's all you need. We had God and his people, God going with us, the people of God surrounding us. Because we got out there, and there was no plan, but they had a plan, and it was for one of their elders who we had never met to move into his house for a month. He was going to be in Germany with his family for a month. That was not what I wanted to do, I'll tell you right now. I wouldn't have said, yeah, let's live in someone's house that we've never met, and I'll be terrified that I'm going to break something. In fact, I melted his grill utensils on the very first day. I turned on the grill. One of the other guys at church said, hey, let's make some burgers. So I fired up the grill, didn't check, then opened it up to see that all of his grill utensils were sitting on the burner or sitting on the grate there, melted all of them. It's like, great, right? We're living in this house. What else am I going to destroy? And they're going to come down to like a pile of rubble. And so we found a place, but again, we had no way to pay for it. We had nothing. We had nothing. But the people of God were there. And the couple that was selling the house, this is so amazing. They believed that God wanted us to buy that house, to live there. The wife so much as told us that, right? She said, I really believe God. No. I don't care. She actually let us move in like 2 weeks before we had even like gotten the mortgage sorted out. So it wasn't like we had the closing date. It was like we weren't even sure we were going to get the mortgage at all. And she says, move in. We're going to trust God. And I was like, okay. Because the moving truck was showing up like within the next day. And she said, oh, no problem. Just move in. But I'm like, but we don't own the house. Like we don't think we can get the mortgage. And there were plenty of times I can remember it being at her house with the mortgage guy, and we're pulling our hair out trying to figure this thing out. But you know what? It happened. It wasn't without consternation. It wasn't without difficulty. It wasn't without me freaking out and not thinking. But see, here's the thing. And it's a shameful thing. I sometimes, and we all do this, we don't want to trust God, do we? Because if I just get the mortgage, I don't have to trust Him. He's the vending machine. He got me the mortgage. He got me the house. And what will often happen? I'll go on with my life. I'll ignore Him. I'll ignore His word. I'll ignore the very book that tells me that when I'm afraid to take courage, when I'm not sure that anyone's around, that He says, no, it's me, I'm here. Don't be afraid. Take courage. It is I. Don't be afraid. Take courage. It is I. Don't be afraid. I'm not going to find that anywhere else but in here. Over and over and over and over again. I just picked one of the passages today. This whole book is filled with the message. Take courage. It is I, the maker of the universe, the one who loves you, the one who died for you, the one who gave I gave my very son's life for you, laid it down. You can trust me. You're family. You're my child now. I hold you in my hands. He desperately wants me to get into this word every day, not just once a week on Sunday, but every day, to hear that over and over again, so that I'll know that voice and I'll know it's Him. Because He's always faithful and He's always there to remind me when I'm freaking out, when I don't think He can do it. He reminds me again of all that He's done already. His track record's pretty amazing in my life and in your life. And He's saying, just remember that. Remember, I didn't go anywhere. Remember, I'm still here. Remember that my faithfulness is great. So that we can, instead of worry, we can worship Him. Worship Him as the Son of God. Worship Him for who He is. Not a ghost, not someone to be afraid of, not someone to fear, but just someone to trust. Because even if we have no one that we can trust, even if you're here this morning and you're going, I don't really have anybody that I can trust, Pastor. You have someone who you can trust. It's God. It's Jesus. He loves you and always will. He died for you, and that was for you, so that you'll never be alone. That you'll always be accepted by Him. So we can trust. In His name, amen.